All right, welcome to the show. My name is Joe. I'm joined by my friend Steppy Boy. You may also know him as world famous YouTuber Muffin.
What's up?
I am also joined by another longtime friend, Meez.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Good to see you.
Meez,
Yeah,
Meez is
I can't
unable
see
to join us in the game because he has currently doesn't have his PC, but he'll be here in spirit. We are all longtime veterans of the Monster Hunter franchise since Monster Hunter Tri back in 2009. And here we are playing Monster Hunter World. And we're just going to kind of give some opinions on things. So we're going to start off with the best map in the world. Muff, would you like to explain why this is the best map in the world?
All right. Well, actually, this is great. What a great starting point, Joe. I'm glad you thought this by accident. So, okay, straight into my first critique of the ancient forest. Look at your mini map right now.
It's kind of a mess.
Yes. Are you able to decipher what's going on right now on your mini map? Like hardly at all. There's so many UI elements. I cannot.
You think it's you think it's a little too busy?
Yeah. Yes. Well, don't actually look at your map though.
I've already opened it. You're too late. I'm gonna fly up now. See, so yeah, Muff doesn't. I would agree with you that the Ancient Forest is a pretty crappy map. I think. I think it's a pretty bad choice to start new players. You know, this game has definitely made strides in bringing in new players who've never played the series before, adapting to the kind of the Western, I don't know what you call it, things that Western games are known for. But I think this was a really awful choice for a first map with the twisting and winding tunnels and the branches. There are elements throughout, like the large areas are fine, and I like those, but it doesn't have much else going for it.
Absolutely, and if I might actually add a thought on the reason that they made it like that as the first map, is because nowadays the Western market is very much heavily focused on that adventure game type feel, right? Like you can't deny that when you start the game and you walk out to the Ancient Forest the first time, it feels like Tomb Raider or it feels like Uncharted. Like it's cool. It's like, oh, look at this vast, beautiful landscape I can go explore. But the inherent problem with that, in my opinion, and I think Muffin shares the same opinion, is that Monster Hunter isn't that. It at its core, it feels like an arcade game. So you have these like long winding tunnels and like just too much going on. It can be hard to know what's really happening.
Yeah.
So at one time I said that I preferred I liked the loading screen arena style zones, and I do think I prefer like the old style maps compared to this game. And the reason is not because of the loading screens. Like I'm not a huge fan of the loading screens. Like they're especially annoying in combat. But I think the benefit is that within 2 seconds, like of looking at that's a normal Rathalos. Where's the other one?
Yeah, not to interject, but already I'm complaining about how damn hard it is just to find Azure Rathalos.
Well, yeah,
I did find it now. We're finally here. Keep going. I didn't mean to interrupt.
If you look at any old Monster map, like you instantly can, like, it's instantly easy to understand how to navigate and how the areas are connected and stuff, just from like looking at it for like 1 second. And compare that to these maps. They have like 5 layers sometimes of like verticality. And like twisting tunnels and tiny passageways that don't really get used all that much to begin with. It's pretty unnecessary and confusing. Like that's what I was trying to show in the base camp. Is if you like just as if you just look at the base camp map at that time. The map is just too. I don't know, dude.
The map is pretty busy. I
The
agree.
mini map in particular is a huge, like, user interface like failure.
Downgrade almost from the map on the side that we used to have. In my
Now,
opinion.
Downgrade.
I do want to point out that I don't necessarily agree with that on the entire game. I have a pretty noteworthy issue with the Ancient Forest specifically. In its design, I like the map. I really do. It's a little bit of an adjustment compared to the other games. I miss having it in the top right, where it was super easy. But I kind of like the ability to track down things. I do like the scout flies. I think that the design of the Ancient Forest is grotesquely flawed. And really, if you wanted to include it in the game, it should absolutely have not been the first map. It should have been the second map. I think the desert area, the Wildspire Waste, is a lot. You know, it's brighter. You know, it's nice open daylight, and the cave areas are kind of bigger caves, and it's easier to see things. The Ancient Forest at times is dark, and yeah, there's just way too many twisting, winding tunnels, and it just isn't. I don't know. I think it could be done a lot better.
It can be visually overwhelming, is I think a good way to describe it.
That is a good way to describe it. Yeah. Also, Rathian is here. I'm less into that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of problems. I think the UI is a huge problem. The map being so tiny in this tiny little circle, and so many, like narrowly winding passages with lots of verticality, and also tons of UI like elements like berries and like spider webs and bugs, like all in this tiny circle that are cluttering up what's already difficult to understand.
I'm gonna die.
So in order to like get a good picture of the map, you have to like pause the game and like turn off the UI elements, and then
Yeah, that's right. This is interesting. I like this, but it's also it's very hard to not die while having engaging conversation. But we're doing well. Good job. Carry on.
Yeah, it's just difficult to navigate without like pausing the game a lot of the time.
Now, see, this
I don't
is definitely
exactly miss not having a map screen.
This is definitely where you and I differ, because I don't really think the map is that bad. I think they do a good job of, you know, for what they've done. You know, I like having the mini map of the other game. It's not that I dislike that. I like the scout flies, and that is definitely where you and I differ. So before I keep going,
okay.
why don't you tell me what you think about the scout flies?
The scout flies, like, with the way they design the maps, the scout flies are absolutely necessary. Because they're so unintuitive that you literally need something like telling you, like, oh, go here now, because it's so unintuitive and like very difficult to navigate. So with the way they've designed the maps, aka terribly, the scout flies are an absolute necessity. And that being said, they actually did an okay job. Like, I think the scout flies work as intended, like a good 95% of the time. But the issue with that, similar to like motion controls in like Skyward Sword or something, is that's not good enough. I don't want to have to be confused about where to go 5% of the time. I don't want to be confused like ever. I don't think, and they're by design designed to like not work when you're like aggroed by a monster, like a baby fucking Jagras or whatever. And so by design, like the scout flies don't work and the fast travel doesn't work like a good, 5 to 10% of the time. And that to me is a huge, like, just a huge failure. It's so obnoxious. And it's intentional is the worst part. And also, the scout flies sometimes are like broken GPS and unintentionally do not work. So that is my opinion on the scout fly boys.
Yeah, I sometimes feel like the scout flies get stuck on rerouting like a GPS occasionally. And it tends to happen more in the Ancient Forest, but I've seen it happen a lot in the Elder's Recess as well, especially when it's dealing with verticality. Which is actually kind of one of my bigger complaints with the newer games, specifically for you in World, is that like the maps have unnecessary verticality. Like, is it cool? Yeah, probably, but it doesn't feel good. The game wasn't designed around verticality, and one could argue that maybe the Insect Glaive was designed around verticality, but you're going to be doing much more damage if you just play it as a ground weapon than if you try to utilize the environment to your advantage in that way, in the way that I think they wanted it to be used.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess if we would go to verticality, I think like it just doesn't add anything like very significant to the game. Like if I just like run off the ledge and like do a ledge attack, like mount it, like
that's cool.
It wasn't like a interesting like decision I made or something. It was just like the monster's next to a ledge, so you do a ledge attack, like, and maybe it like looks cool, I guess, and it does, but it's just not really like an interesting like decision to make. Addition. And I think another okay, so what am I? Okay, they're going.
Just the case in point, the Scoutflies have really bugged out. They just led me up. They just led me up here, and now nope. Now they're going. So
yeah, broken GPS.
Now see, okay, I'm here to play devil's advocate because Muffer's really is going in on here, which is fine. But
yeah, I guess can you? Oh yeah, very broken GPS. Can you respond to my point about Scoutflies and how they're intentionally designed to not work when you're aggroed by another monster, which happens pretty frequently in this game?
So the intentionally designed to not work, I think when you say it like that, it makes it sound significantly more malicious than it really is. You know, if you want to have quote unquote realism, immersion, blah 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 blah. I'm gonna assume this thing is going to the ancient forest camp to sleep, so I'm just gonna fly there.
Oh, I got aggroed by a fucking. Oh no, okay, he's up here.
So like, if you want the realism, it's like okay, I guess like the Scoutflies get scared. I guess for me, I don't really have too much of an issue when something like that happens. Like it's not really much of a problem of like aggroing monsters leaving, you know, in the middle of me trying to find it. It's just not a problem. So I don't really mind that. And so with that in mind, I don't see the Scoutflies as negatively as you do. Like you see them, at least to me, you see them as like a deliberate thing just to piss people off. I definitely see them as a tool that is necessary and useful that has some quirks to it.
I'm saying I didn't say that they were to piss people off at all. I said 95% of the time as intended, and they do a pretty good job. My criticism is that 95% of the time is not good enough. And that goes for the fast travel too. Like if you're gonna make the maps like this fucking massive, like the ancient forest is insanely large. If you're gonna make it that big, then don't tell me I can't fast travel if I'm if like a little Jagras is like angry at me.
Yeah, that's obnoxious. The trying to fast travel with Jagras there or whatever is there, I would agree, is a little on the annoying side. I don't know. I guess I try to be positive about most things I'm doing, whether it's game or whatever. So like, there's really not many things that I do beyond just game. There's not many things out there that I'm like, this is so bad, you know, I refuse to participate in it. I'm certainly capable of pointing out flaws. Every single Monster Hunter game has had something where you're like, okay, that's kind of stupid. The for-use, overuse, and necessity of the end game where all you had to do was guild quests and how breaking relic weapons were, and the stupid what was it even called again? Where you need the Y-stones? Yeah, that was
the Apex monsters.
Apex,
yeah,
that was stupid. That was stupid. I still put in 1,000 hours, and I still love the game, and I'm capable of saying it had some flaws. Whereas Muffin, you hated it so much, you just you bailed out fast. You put in
that's
really
the thing I wanted to mention actually. Is I played this game on PS4 and PC, and when I played it on a PS4, the way in which I bought it and I pretty much played it all by myself. Like I had friends that played it, but I intentionally sold everything because I just wanted the experience, and I also intentionally did not look up very much information about the game. So coming from that perspective, That's probably why I'm so critical, because I feel like a lot of the issues I have might not come up as much if you're playing multiplayer all the time, or if you just looked up answers to stuff. So a lot of my criticism comes from that standpoint of that experience. I had a point.
I guess I'm trying to think now. We were on the scout flies. We got a little. I think we tangented a little bit. What was I talking about?
Wait, so why? Okay, I was gonna say something that happens, especially when fighting Rathalos. It happens a lot. Is like you're fighting a Rathalos or a Rathian, and then like the other one comes in and helps. And then let's say you're fighting Rathalos, and then Rathian comes in, and Rathalos flies away, and now your scout flies don't work because Rathian is there.
Yeah.
So now it's like, okay, I have to just like open up my map while Rathian is in the area trying to kill me, and like zoom in and like turn off UI elements to figure out where he's actually going and like how I should start running towards him. It's like that's obnoxious every time.
So that's actually something I wanted to mention on the topic of scout flies is that thing in particular, where like when you have a monster aggroed on you, you can't see your scout flies. Like Gale thinks it's an immersion thing. I personally think it is like not even that. I think they don't want to distract you with these glowing particle effects while you have something else attacking you. But here's my thing. I personally don't get as much enjoyment as a lot of people I know from fighting the random monsters who spawn. I want to kill my target so I can get the rewards, so I can get out there and continue doing that. So what I would like to see is the ability to focus a target, like you can select a target to track with your scout flies on the map, but I want to focus that target, and I want my scout flies to show me where that thing is, even if I have a Deviljho on my butt right now. Like I feel like so many of my problems with multi-monster quests could be solved if the scout flies would just track the target I tell them to. And like, for me, that would fix scout flies almost to the point where like I'd consider them perfect. Now they still break, they're not perfect, but like if it would just track the monster I want it to track and not disappear if I don't want it to disappear, it'd be great. That's what I think.
Personal opinion. That would help a lot, because that would take away a lot of the 5% of the time where they just don't work. That's my biggest issue with them.
Oh, okay. I just remember what I was going to say now. So I will play devil's advocate and crap, it's gonna be dodge. I'll play devil's advocate on the scout flies when they bug out. And this is definitely just a difference in perspective.
Bug out.
So I don't consider the scout flies bugging out to be an unacceptable circumstance where it's like, shame on you, Capcom, how dare you not do this. To me, it's perfectly logical, and so I guess it just begs the question that if it's just a thing that happens when you have a big map and you have these monsters that are traveling all over. Is the scout fly, if you look at it on like a game, a nitty-gritty programming level, it's like these things have to calculate and determine the best way to get somewhere from where you're standing and from where the monster is. And that's, pretty complex, and frankly, that's actually pretty impressive that it can do that. And so if it kind of freaks out when, Diablo's here, starts going one way, and suddenly flips around and Scoutfly is like, hang on, wait a second, we got to recalculate and figure that out. To me, that's perfectly understandable, and I get why that's happening. And so I don't. Yes. I'm not upset by that. And so the question is,
I don't really have a problem with that either. Wait, okay, so what's your question?
Well, I guess so. I suppose the difference between you and me, Muff, is like that happens, and I just go like, oh yeah, like I guess it makes sense if that's something that can happen. They just get confused, and that's whatever. I'm not like mad about that. Whereas other people are like really. And I don't mean other people like in a passive aggressive way. I mean just like other people on Steam reviews, other people are fucking livid about that, and they hate that. I don't really, I get it. I don't think it's that big of a deal. If they work the majority of the time and they get a little tripped up every now and then, roll with the punches, it's fine. But I don't expect perfection from my games,
I don't even think them getting confused or having to recalculate their route to continue using the GPS term is a problem. I just want them to stay on my screen if I'm tracking something. Like,
Yes, I kind of agree. Like, I don't think like the broken thing is definitely annoying, like in ancient forest especially. But that's not like a deal breaker for me. So I want to make it clear that my main problem with the scout flies is when you're
they
being
disappear
aggro.
when small monsters try and attack you
By
once.
design. Yes, that's fucking obnoxious.
Yep, I just wish you could turn that off. If you could turn it
What?
off, I think scout flies
That
would
never
be
bothers
great.
you, Joe? I'm just
I don't experience it enough
curious.
for it to be a problem. Really?
Seriously. 'Cause,
No.
like,
How
that
else are you
happens to
guys
me.
fighting small monsters? Like, what the heck?
Never. I don't ever want to fight small
Yeah,
monsters.
that's
But I'm
the
tracking the monster, and then I walk through an area, and it has a fucking Jagras in it, or a Rathanos, or whatever dumbass bullshit that wants to like kill me, and now I can't track the monster anymore.
I guess,
So-
okay, so
And
going
it
back...
takes so goddamn long to like for stuff to like
De-aggro.
stop. Yes, it takes so fucking long.
You had mentioned before about how, like, if a Rathian were to show up when you're trying to fight Rathlos, and then Rathlos leaves, that whole thing. So
Yeah.
I guess the difference is, yes, it would mess with my scout flies, but I see the Rathlos on my map. I know the map well enough that I can start walking in the general area, and then eventually the scout flies engage, and it's like, all right, scout flies are in, keep going. You know, I'm already on the way. It's not like I'm stuck there, like, literally having no idea where to go, and Rathian's ruining my time. I'm already on the move, and the scout flies then just kick in and make it simpler.
So, yeah, you mentioned earlier that Muffin definitely had more complaints with with map design and all that stuff, whereas a lot of my complaints were further into endgame and intentional choices that came along there. And segueing from Scoutflies to kind of that a little bit more, that's actually one of my biggest complaints, is it feels like at endgame, unless you are doing an Elder Dragon, you will be fighting 3 monsters at some point. And to me, that feels much more like them like feeling themselves a little bit like, look what we can do with our engine. Here are 3 monsters that you can fight all at once. Isn't this fun and cool? But it gets, especially because like it's Monster Hunter, it's grindy, and that's fine. But you shouldn't intentionally, because fighting multiple monsters at a time is an intentional choice. You shouldn't intentionally make it frustrating to efficiently farm. Like, I don't want to have to fight off a Basilgeist and I don't freaking know, Tobi Kadachi every time I'm trying to get an Anjanath gem. It's not enjoyable to me to have to deal with that in every quest. And then, because the maps no longer have loading zones, you're stuck with the scout fly issue. I once had a Rathian chase me from the swamp area in the wasteland, whatever it's called. From there to almost to the Diablo's cave. And I couldn't use my scout flies because this Rathian refused to get off of me. It becomes an issue when the game is stopping you from playing the game. So I was wondering maybe what are some of your thoughts on that, or if you think it's fine, or what do you guys think about that?
I would certainly agree that Basilgeist is annoying. The fact that he shows up in every single quest and all he does is drop bombs and scream. You dung bomb him, he screams more, and he leaves, is frustrating. But
It's not enjoyable.
was Deviljho really any worse? Like, that's all Deviljho also did. He rolls in
I
the
think
area,
I
you
don't
can't
know.
make him go away. All he does is follow you and beat you up. And, like, I didn't really find that super annoying. So, like, are we just looking for things to complain about? Is it really any different than that?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I think the issue is that if there's 3 monsters total in the quest, I think the limit of 2, I think works better because like I think if there's 2 monsters in the area, I think you can reasonably like keep track and still fight and stuff. But it's just like more annoying. But you can do it, and I don't think it like ruins the hunt. But then there's 3. Not only can they all be in the same area, which is like, I would say that border that starts to cross the border into like, I literally cannot like manage this many like monsters at a time. I just need to like run around and like Superman dive and just wait until one of them leaves.
Yeah.
But also it just like it ends up 2 of them are almost always in the same area with each other. Like, so you're pretty much always fighting like 2 at a time or something, unless you just spam dung bombs or whatever. Even that doesn't work all the time.
So
And-
I agree that's annoying. but really only about Basil. I don't
Yeah.
I don't really run into that kind of issue or that annoyance concerning any other multi-monster show up. You can dung them and they leave and it's fine. Basil annoys me. There was one time I was fighting Radabon and it was like Basil would follow Radabon. We dung the Basil. Radabon is scared of Basil. Yeah, you were there. Radabon is scared of Basil. So it would be Radabon runs away from Basil. Basil follows Radabon. Repeat, repeat, repeat. We chased Radabon in a complete circle around the entire Rotten Vale, the upper level of the Vale, for like 5 straight minutes, never able to get a hit, because it was a constant cyclical battle of Radabon running from Basilgeist and Basilgeist following us. That shit's annoying. That was probably the worst example I've experienced so far. I'm about 120 hours in, and I was pretty mad. Like, that was insanely stupid.
Exactly.
But that doesn't happen a lot. It was like a one-time thing where you're like, my goodness, this is stupid. And, it only happened once.
My biggest complaint isn't perhaps about Basilgeist or invasive monsters. It probably stems more from the fact that if this monster decides it wants to attack you, there is no escaping it unless you're willing to throw some poop at it. That's fine. That's why they have poop. But there's not an infinite supply of poop in this game. I mean, technically there is, but like you can bring 10 dung pods, and they're super inconvenient to get unless you choose to meld for them. So it's like this huge issue where, by design, they're forcing you essentially to either A, deal with the fact that multiple monsters is almost excessive when it gets to 3, or B, throw poop and potentially deal with this Radamon and Basilgeist situation. Is it fine? Sure. A lot of people like it. Sure. To me, it feels like a hindrance to what I'm actually trying to accomplish in the game.
I guess
I
on
think
a similar note, I think the flash bomb and like flying monsters kind of has the same issue. Where like against like a Zerathlos, I mean, I guess we kind of fucked that one up a little bit. But like Kushala de Oros as well.
God,
Kushala
I
de
hate
Oros.
Kushala.
It feels like either you spam flashes the entire time, or you just like are there for 30 minutes. And I just don't think spamming flash bombs is very fun. I don't really want to do it.
Yeah, it's certainly that. Oh, that was gonna get. Never mind. That it's certainly a balancing of, punishing you for not being properly prepared. If you don't bring poop to a quest, that's like, welcome to high rank, bitch. That's just something that happens. You need to know that. That's part of this game. It's about the learning curve. You need to know that. I would never want it to be made too easy though. But then Azure Rathalos and Kushala, where they are, I would say, quite literally impossible to fight without flashes, is obnoxious and not fun and poor game design. Because it's not a challenge. There's difficulty that's rewarding when you succeed at it, and there's difficulty that's artificial and frustrating.
Which is just like bringing enough flash bombs and flash bugs, and then just like spamming them. It's like not challenging or interesting. And I think a potential like change. And in the old games, it wasn't as much of an issue because like flash bombs were they weren't like super easy to hit. Like in this game, you can aim them anywhere. You can throw them to the ground. And in the old games, it was actually kind of hard to aim them. And I think I like the pod, the slinger system. Don't get me wrong, I actually like a lot about this game.
But
I think a change that they need to add to like accommodate how easy it is to like aim and throw flash bombs now is I think maybe like you have to time it like right before they attack. Like there's like a timing aspect to it, and they don't actually like get flashed out of the sky just if they're like stationary and flying. Like you kind of have to like parry their attack with a flash bomb or something. I think that would add like an interesting element that would reward some predictive timing, and bring back the skill of like throwing a flash bomb.
Hello, Oda. Speaking of our previous subject, here's Oda Garen to ruin our day. Throw the poop at him, and away he goes. Like, that wasn't so bad. That was fine.
Yeah. I don't really. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have. I think the map stuff that I was talking about is much worse of an issue than.
So, okay, I would like to go back to the maps because we were talking about this before we started recording. Personally, the only real map complaint I have is the Ancient Forest. I think they just didn't execute things well. Bad timing. We've already said it 6 times now. I think the other maps are great. I really like them. I don't have an issue. Muff, you said that you hate pretty much all of them. Could you elaborate?
My issue is sort of like a blanket complaint with the more so maybe the UI than the. But it's also just like overall map design, like philosophy of this game. Pretty much all the areas have some areas that are like really intricate and like have some like random tunneling, like verticality things going on. And when that happens, like it just looks like a fucking clusterfuck on your minimap. And you might as well not even have a minimap for that part because it's so impossible to tell what's going on. It's not too much of an issue on maps that aren't the Ancient Forest. Mainly the Coral Highlands and the Ancient Forest, I would say. But I just think having intricate passageways with lots of verticality and like narrow tunnels and all these alternate paths, combined with this like little, 2-inch, if that like diameter minimap on the side of your screen, it just doesn't help. And I just thinking back to the old Monster games, just being able to look at this mini map and having the mini map being your only form of like map navigation, it's just so much more elegant. You can look at it within 2 seconds. You know exactly how it works, and you know exactly how to get around. And that's now gone, and it's just really unfortunate.
So, doing my best to play devil's advocate here. Two things that I was thinking about when you said that. Thing one, if we're gonna, if everything's getting compared back to the glory days of old version Monster Hunter, which is fair, not being sarcastic, it's fair. How often did you really look at the minimap? I mean, once you hit high rank, it becomes nothing, and you literally don't have it. So
exactly. So that's good.
At the very least. This time you have a map. You have the UI elements. I don't really even look at the map in this game, but when I'm like, damn, I need to find, a flash bug or some mushrooms or this monster, I can open the map, put down my tracker, and run straight to it. The difference in the older games were you had to learn it, and you had to know the map, which is fine, but you also then had to know where all the various gathering points were. Do you really want to learn and memorize where every single mushroom
Yes,
is?
because in base, it always starts you out, like in lower rank, you start out in base camp, you get a map every time, and it gives you the opportunity to learn it in base camp. And then once you get to high rank, it tests you on your knowledge of the area. Like, you do all these gathering quests, so you should know, like, where shit is, like... And then you get to high rank, and it tests you on your knowledge, and you actually rewards like whatever you learn. I think that's a good thing.
So, perhaps I sit somewhere in the middle. I think the old maps should be complemented in their design because you could be high ranked, to say it like that, thrown somewhere random, and you could look at what area you're in and say, okay, I know how to get to X from here, and I can do it in the fastest way possible. It's pretty easy to do that, right? You hunt on the map maybe 6 times, okay, easy. Whereas in World, if I got high ranked and they took away my mini map and big map, I would be like, all right, I don't know how to get to X location from where I spawned.
How many hours have you played the game?
I have 150 or so.
Yes, and if they took away like the map element and no scout, like you would just be completely fucking lost. I don't know.
In Ancient Forest, yes, I will say I personally don't dislike the maps nearly as much as Muffin does. I think Wildspire Waste is fine. I think Coral Highlands is fine. All these other maps are fine.
I have a... Sorry, Meez, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Ancient Forest. No, you're good.
I have a problem with your argument or your circle of thought, Muffin, concerning, map into map design into Scoutfly is you really hate one, and you allow the hatred of that one to then justify why all the other ones are therefore bad. It seems to me like you treat them as one is bad and the rest are crappy band-aids slapped on top to fix why they're bad. See, I don't agree.
Exactly.
I completely disagree. I think that the maps are made to be larger, and they're this very visually realistic, and I like that you have these random croppings of things showing up. Not heavy book, sorry. I like all those things. I like that direction they took, and I think it's cool. And then they were smart enough to go, wait a minute, this thing is kind of insane. Maybe we should have the scout fly in, so they add the scout flies in. I see them as complements upon each other to make the experience what it is, as opposed to being like the writer's room got ahead of itself and now they're trying to play damage control. I just don't see it that way.
The way I see it is they made the maps massive and they made it like really modern for the sake of making it modern, kind of like what they did with like the story. And then they realized when they're actually hunting is that they probably realized at some point like this is impossible to navigate and like figure out where to go. We need to figure out like a navigation system to help the player out, because otherwise like there's no way you're going to be able to find your way around this shit. And that's when the scout flies come in, and they do a pretty good job for the most part, other than what we've already complained about. But yes, I do think like I agree that I like the way the areas look. I think they look beautiful. I really like how more organic it feels. Like I think mixing the loading zones is a great idea. I don't really like the loading zones very much. They're really annoying in combat. So I think getting rid of the loading zones is totally fine. And I love the way the areas look and how much more organic and natural they are. But I don't think you had to sacrifice the easy to understand interface and the navigation that came with the old maps. I don't understand why. Like, it doesn't need to be either like fucking MH1 style, like bare bones, like grass area, and like it doesn't need to be that. Like, you can have a happy medium of like easy navigation and good interface. And an organic, like, beautiful environment. Those things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah. So, one thing that's interesting to note about World, and we've kind of talked about it a little bit, is it is very much like the westernization of the Monster Hunter series, and that's fine. It's done great things for this series. It's sold 11 million copies or something like that as of this day. But westernization is something that's super new for Japanese developers in general. If I'm not completely mistaken, I'm pretty sure Breath of the Wild was the first fully open world game ever released by a Japanese developer. I might be tripping, but I'm pretty sure that's true. Whereas while World isn't open world, it's very much like it feels more along the lines of what Western gamers like and enjoy. So maybe I'm just thinking like, when I compare World's maps and World's UI design and all this stuff to Breath of the Wild, which I'm playing right now, I just think like, wow, I look at this map and I understand what's going on. I have my mini-map in the corner and I can see where I'm trying to go. It has elevation, and it looks it looks like a map as opposed to a bunch of little squiggly lines. And I don't know, I think like, given time, World's format could be perfected. I think it's got a lot of good going for it. I just think right now, I've said it a few times, it feels like Monster Hunter World Alpha. Thank you for paying for the closed beta. And I just think it can be evolved. I think it can be fixed and added to, and I think a lot of good can come from it, since like this is the Japanese developers are finally starting to do what the rest of the world likes.
I like that perspective, and I do agree with you. The Breath of the Wild comparison is good. I hadn't thought about the fact that, yeah, they're not used to this, and I guess that's where I go back with the scout flies bugging out, is I understand that, and I'm okay with it. This game is still, regardless of all.
I think all of us are kind of okay with like the scout flies kind of glitching out and being broken every once in a while. Like I said, my complaint is more so the aggro ruining the scout flies.
Well, but just like in the sense of like, everyone's human kind of thing. let me try to keep myself on track here. So clearly, everyone has some complaints and things to point out about what, why this game could be made better. Regardless of that, it's still the #1 selling Steam game of 2018 and broke that record in what, 2 days? 3 days?
2 days.
Like a week? Like, that's insane. That's super cool. I know, Meez, you were saying the fact that it's been adapted and made popular for Western audiences, and that's why, it's doing so well, is the fact that we've all played this game now for nearly a decade. And no one knows what it is. Like, you can tell...
Yeah. Not
tell
until
someone
now.
you meet and they're like, oh, what kind of games do you like? And you're like, I play Monster Hunter. And they're like, what on earth is that?
Yep.
No one knows what it is. I remember sitting somewhere, just talking to a guy I had recently met, and he just kind of casually says, he's like, man, I'd much rather be back home playing Monster Hunter right now. And I nearly fell over. Like, it was insane, the fact that this person, more or less a stranger, just said that to me, and I'm like, what did you just say? You want to be playing Monster Hunter? How do you even know what that is? Like, that was one of the coolest things that happened when this game released. The fact that it's now that well known and that popular is super awesome. And so I'm fine if there's some problems just because of how much good it's done. And yes, they can be improved upon, and I hope that, if they do, whether they choose to keep this game long form and like a regular content, or they're going to make a World 2 or whatever they're doing, that's fine. But none of these complaints are still enough for me to think that this game is bad. This is still the best Monster Hunter that I've played. And we're all sitting here
That's
with
something I wanted to mention, actually. Not to like totally shit on your... Well, I mean, I kind of agree with your point, but I was gonna say, when I played this by myself, like, without looking anything up or like playing with other players, I think if it was my first Monster Hunter game, I would have quit in the middle of the game and not come back. I think the issues I had, like, trying to navigate and, like, find all these fucking tracks all over the place and, like, fucking chasing Rathalos down for the 100th time when he runs away. Honestly, I think that would have driven me to the point where I wouldn't have gone back to the game. And obviously, it didn't really seem like it happened very much to very many people, but I think it could have happened to someone who was, like, trying to get down on the Monster Hunter hype for the first time, and then they get into it.
So one interesting thing to mention is, and it's kind of like a big elephant in the room for a lot of people and world, is that this game is meant to be always online. You are meant to log on and create an online session or be match made into one. Other than the story cutscenes, I don't think the developers ever expected you to play through this game fully solo. They added the SOS flare, which I dislike. I want that to be known. I dislike the idea of the SOS flare. It's convenient. I'm sure it helps a ton of people. I don't think it's good for the community, because why would I ever try and make friends with somebody I can just SOS to a random quest? I would never have met Gale if the SOS system existed.
Oh.
Case in point. So the game is confusing for a lot of new players. I agree with you. If new players tried to do these things completely solo, it would probably be frustrating and they'd probably quit, which is probably why we had never heard very much about Monster Hunter before. But it's not like the developers didn't know that. It's not like we don't have the tools in our hands to counteract that. If any new player wanted to, they could press a button and have a bunch of potentially experienced people in their quest in a matter of seconds. Is that good? I don't know. But I think it's an unfair criticism right there. And this is coming from somebody who likes the game but doesn't love it.
Yeah, I mean, I think they expect you. I just like to have the solo experience. That's how I play games. I try to play games just kind of blind and like by myself, just to see like what the game has to offer without like looking stuff up. And I just enjoy playing games that way. So I think you have a point that maybe they probably don't want you to play it like that, but I did anyway. And for other people that want to play games like that, I'm just saying there are some issues.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's worth mentioning. Is actually, I dislike how like there's no solo mode in this game. That's something I really enjoyed. I liked having the distinct like solo story content and
Versus
the
your
online
guild content.
which
Yep.
you could just like get in with a bunch of friends, just grind through it, no story to worry about.
Yep.
Just a big list of quests to knock out.
Just go
And-
hunt this thing.
Yeah, and then in this game,
You
it's
can't
all
do that.
it's all one. Yep.
Yep.
See,
everyone
I
will
like
watch
that.
their
I like that
cutscenes
it's all
and-
one. I think that
Really, because
the cutscene
So-
thing is dumb. You know, we all know that for sure. I'm not even going to talk about that because we all know the cutscene thing is dumb.
Yeah, it's
But
Yeah.
I frankly, I hated Village Mode. Village Mode is so damn stupid because you can get to the higher degree of difficulty and the stronger weapons and all that jazz with online mode, and then going back
Go
to
back
do Village
and
Mode
choose
is a
Village.
damn chore because
Yeah.
you need to do it to get some random earring to make the best sets ever. So they entice you with a really great item at the end. But my God, if I didn't spend 100 hours doing all just the BS in 4 Ultimate just to get, I don't even remember what it was some earring, and I hated every second of it because it was like every
Yeah,
monster
same.
was super easy. I had all the end game armor. You could kill everything in 5 minutes, which is fine. I still had to do like 70 quests. What a waste of my
Yeah.
time. So stupid.
Yeah.
So like I'm
See,
totally okay with that. This
I
being
see.
like-
I play it. I just play it like as I go. Like if I do the lowering stuff while I'm in low rank, and do the high rank stuff as I'm getting into high rank, so I'm not OP. And
Yeah.
honestly, the village was by far my favorite part of Gen, and definitely one of my favorite parts of For You.
Yeah.
So I just disagree. Like from an opinion standpoint, like I thoroughly enjoyed like going through the village in both of those games, and really all the Monster Hunter games,
See, this is
Because-
interesting to me.
because I just like the distinct like solo challenge of it.
See, so I think I kind of stand in a different point than both of you. I think I share a little bit of both opinions because I very much I love the Portal and Monster Hunter games. They're probably by and far my favorites because I view Monster Hunter as a pick up and go arcade game almost. Like a lot of my Monster Hunter sessions, especially in the more recent years, after Try, of course, because we all know nothing except play Try. But in the more recent years, like I would play Monster Hunter for maybe 30 minutes, do a hunt or two, then have to go somewhere. And like the arcade style of our online, where it's this list of quests, was very convenient for me. Like I liked that, but I also liked being able to go home one day and sit through and play through Village. It wasn't a chore to me, but it also wasn't the reason I was playing. It just happened to be an extra part of the game. Whereas in World, it is all one. But I almost feel hindered if I don't like sit down and do all my weekly quests or do all my random daily bounties or whatever I get. And it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't fit my style of the game as much. I just view it as an arcadey experience to go kill this one thing and come back. And there's a lot that hinders it. So I miss that, I think.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've honestly never heard you describe it as arcade. I've never heard you use that word when talking about it, but it's a good perspective and it's a good way to describe it. I wouldn't think to use the word arcade, but like hearing you say it, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense, kind of thing.
This game is like by its core, it's like a boss rush, like
Yeah.
all boss fights.
Yeah.
And when you add a map that's like this big, it takes away from the flow.
It doesn't feel like a boss fight anymore. It feels like, I don't know. It feels like Dragon's Dogma. And I like Dragon's Dogma, but I don't play Monster Hunter because it feels like Dragon's Dogma. So,
Yeah, I haven't touched Dragon's Dogma, but it's in my cart.
that's a good game. Play it.
It always ends up on sale. Yeah, I mean, I like this discussion. You know, I like
Yeah.
hearing these points.
A conclusive statement for me would be, I played the game like from start to finish 2 times, so like I don't hate it. Like I do like the game, but I think it's like, I think it did do a lot of things right. Like a lot of the user interface stuff is a huge improvement. Like especially the crafting system and like the wish list and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And like the item wheel, I really like. So there are a ton of things in the game that I like. I just find it to be a case of like, like maybe like 2 steps forward and like 3 steps back. And I think if they can resolve the UI issues with the map and design better maps, then what else? Make flash bombs less awful, or flying monsters less dumb. Yeah, I mean, I think they just need to resolve some areas of shortcoming, and then there's seriously something that can be really awesome. But
yeah, no, I agree with that. It's definitely good to hear the opinions. I think that yeah, I definitely find myself more in the middle, in the modern thing. I really do like this game, and for those that have made it to the end of the episode and are listening, I think you should take away that I think we all do like the game, right? Like Muffin,
I like World a lot.
We all like the game.
Pretty much every day.
I love the game. I have like 120 hours in. At the time of recording this, the game has been out for about a month. Like
a month.
I have plenty of other responsibilities in life, and I still will sit down and play this game for hours. I think I'm also just capable of not blindly defending it and saying it's perfect because it's clearly not. So I think that's a really good closing point. What Muffin just said, just like what those final opinions. I think that's really good. For those, for people listening, I thought it would just be interesting to kind of go over the negative points. You don't always hear people's dissenting opinions, or often those dissenting opinions just really get shoved down in places like, I don't know, Reddit.
I've
it's
heard
just
that the ancient forest is confusing.
I read it.
But I've never heard anyone explain why.
Yeah, you just don't. I really do think that this discussion, maybe some people are going to be annoyed or think that people are the people in this discussion right now are idiots.
Joe hates Monster Hunter.
Yeah, I'm sure people will be upset, but I do like the fact that we were all, I think, able to constructively explain why we had problems with it. As a silver lining, the planned next episode, I'll be having Disco and Alec are going to be on. They would like to bring forth the more positive points. So we're going to be talking about the things that we absolutely damn love about Monster Hunter World. So look forward to that. And otherwise, are there any other closing things you guys would like to say?
So for the next episode, one thing I'd like maybe Gail or somebody to take a mental note of is how many of the things that they like was under our list of complaints, because we kind of get into debates a lot in chat about World, and a lot of the time the things that we like are things that they dislike, and vice versa. So I'd be interested to see how many times the same topics are brought up, but from the opposite point of view. So
I agree, and you're definitely right that a lot of people have very different opinions on the exact same thing.
Yep.
Muff, do you have any other closing statements?
We gotta end the episode in an arm wrestle.
Do we? All right, you bastard. Let's go.
I'm there in spirit.
Are we doing best 2 out of 3 or 1 and done?
Let's see.
Too late. 1 and done. Here we go. I'm coming for it. In the meantime, thank you for listening / watching. I would love to hear... Oh, damn it.
Okay, I'm good.
Alright, Azure Rathlos, Diablos, Radabon, Billybobjho, Bagel Juice, Nerd. Up to 35 minutes.
Bagel my asshole.
If you do that, I will not be okay.